this is how the free will problems intersect with the mind body problem, or the some would call it the problem of consciousness. But clearly, we have a brain, and the brain is the control center, and what we do, what we say, what we see is all happening in the brain, right? And so one of the more simple arguments for determinism is the brain is a physical object. Physical objects are governed by the laws of nature, laws of physics, ultimately. And so everything is just the initial conditions of the brain, and everything that the brain does, and therefore everything your body does, your the words you utter, the motions of your body are all kind of dictated by the brain, and the brain's activity is dictated by its initial conditions and the laws of nature. So at any given time, right now, my brain is in a certain situation, all the atoms, and those atoms are all being governed by the laws of nature, the laws of physics. And so every step along the way is uniquely determined by the initial conditions and the laws of nature. Where society, so that's an argument for determinism. Indeterminists will say, there's still some play, there's some wiggle room, even with the laws of nature. The laws of nature are not. It's not like Newtonian laws that are absolutely 100% governing. There's more constraining, but not fully dictating or governing. Where society comes in is, think about behavior not in terms of brains and neurons and atoms, but think about our behavior in terms of upbringing. This could all be translated neurologically. We don't
Mm,
have the neural language yet or the neurological understanding, but we know that when for example, our parents teach us from a very early age not to hit others, that goes into our brain, and it gets processed, and usually there's punishment when we do, and that gets processed, and eventually our brains tell us refrain from hitting others, right? And so the brains are still the the kind of the medium, but between the environment and our actions. And so social forces have tremendous influence on us. The reason you and I can communicate is we both learned English. We we have our different sets of overlapping values. Where most of those values came from society, from parents, from authorities, from today social media. I mean, now some of us are always evolving. So we were talking before about free speech and some of the more tougher issues. I can evolve on those issues. I want to hear the arguments. I want to think more about it. Sometimes I've decided this is where I am. I publish a paper and say that, and sort of but all of this is kind of, I'm influenced constantly. There's so much input from the environment, other people, the environment itself, and that all comes into the brain, and the brain does what it will with it based on who you are and what your brain configuration was at that time. The only question is the output is, do I have multiple possible outputs, right? With all this input coming in, and a lot of the input is from myself, right? I'm in my head a lot. I'm
right.
processing things, so there's a constant kind of input. You think of the brain like a computer. There's just lots of stuff coming into the brain. What comes out of, is that the question is, do I have multiple possible outputs, or is there only one possible output? And intuitively, we have multiple possible outputs. We could do this, we could do that, we could do this. But the determinists think, no, there's really only one. It's an illusion that you could have done otherwise.